Devlin's Audio Workshop. In this video, I'm going to talk about choosing the right string gauge for drop tunings. Let's get started. You may be wondering, why does it matter? That's a good question. After years of trying to get the right tone with down-tuned guitars, I've realized the most important factor, even more important than the pickup or the amp you use, is making sure you have adequate string tension. If you don't have enough string tension, particularly on the lower strings, the strings will feel floppy and won't hold tune properly. Let's take a closer look at how the guitar works. When a string is plucked by a pick, the pressure applied to the string increases the tension of the string. As the plucked note decays, the extra tension created by the force of the pick hitting the string dissipates. The result is that the attack of the note is sharper than the decay. The more tension a string has, the more it will resist being displaced by the pick when it strikes it, and the less pronounced this effect will be. The thicker the strings, the more tension they will have when tuned to any given pitch. Thus, the thicker the strings, the less pronounced this effect will be. To some extent, this effect is unavoidable regardless of the string gauge you choose. But don't worry, this anomaly is what gives the guitar its original and recognizable character and timbre, and sets it apart from other stringed instruments with more string tension, such as pianos. Here's a couple of clips that demonstrate the effect I've described. The first clip is a string with a 56 1/1000th of an inch diameter tuned to drop G, or G1 on a keyboard. As you probably noticed, the attack is about 16 cents sharper than the decay. Now, the discrepancy in tuning between the attack and decay may not be that noticeable, but when you layer multiple guitars and bass guitars that suffer from the same problem, or play chords with 3 or more notes, the discrepancies between all of the strings accumulate and create a really dissonant, unappealing overtone that makes a performer or musical act sound unprofessional. Here is a clip of the same guitar, only with a 68 1/1000th of an inch diameter string tuned to drop G or G1 on a keyboard. As you can tell, the attack is still a little bit sharper than the decay, by about 3 to 6 cents. However, as I said before, this effect is unavoidable. By going with a thicker string gauge, we've minimized this effect as much as possible, and the tuning discrepancy should be irrecognizable to the average listener. When choosing string gauge, it's important to consider the scale length of the instrument you will be restringing. Guitars with shorter scale lengths will have less string tension than a guitar with a longer scale when tuned to the same pitch with a string of an identical diameter. For that reason, guitars with shorter scale lengths will require strings with a bigger diameter to achieve the same tension as a guitar with a longer scale length. Electric guitars generally come in 3 types of scale lengths. The most common is the Superstrat style guitar, with a 25.5 inch scale length. Superstrat style guitars generally have 24 frets and come in the 6 or 7 string varieties. I've listed some popular models below. The next most common is the Gibson style guitar, with a 24 3/4 inch scale length. Gibson style guitars generally have 22 frets and come in the 6 string variety. Again, I've listed some popular models below. Finally, the least common and my personal favorite for drop tuning, the baritone guitar. Baritone guitars come in 27 or 28 inch scale lengths, have 24 frets, and are available in the 6, 7, 8, and 9 string varieties. Baritone guitars are most desirable for low tuning stability because the longer scale length allows you to achieve the right string tension with a smaller string diameter. The only downside is that the larger frets make stretches more difficult. Let's get to choosing the right string gauge for drop tunings. Now, there isn't one set of strings that is right for each tuning or each player. If you don't play with a super hard pick attack, then you can get away with a lighter gauge of strings with less tension. However, if you are like most players who use drop tunings, you probably have an aggressive pick attack. In order to prevent the attack of the notes from being much sharper than the decay, you should try to use the thickest string gauge you are comfortable playing. I've included a link to a string tension calculator in the description below. You can use it to determine which gauges will provide the right amount of tension for the tuning you intend to use on your guitar. The lower of a note you are trying to tune to, the more string tension you will need to prevent the attack from being sharper than the decay. I've found that 17 pounds of string tension works best for the higher, unwound strings, and 18 to 24 pounds works best for the lower, wound strings. It's especially important to make sure that the lowest string has adequate string tension, because the lowest string usually drives down-tuned riffs, and if tuning isn't consistent on the lowest string, your down-tuned riffs will sound sloppy and unprofessional. Most pre-assembled 7-string guitar sets available from major string manufacturers are far too light to achieve optimum string tension on the lower strings for drop tuning. To achieve optimum tension on the lower strings, I recommend buying an individual string for the lowest string and pairing it with a 6-string set. Remember, you might have to try a few different sets before you find the one that's right for you. Also, if you are trying a new string gauge, you may have to adjust the string height, intonation, nut slots, or the tuning pegs to accommodate the new string gauge. Here's some suggestions for string gauges you can try for different tuning and scale length combinations. Well, that's all folks. I hope you found this video informative. If you like what you've seen, be sure to go over to the Devlin's Audio Workshop Facebook page and give it a like. Also, subscribe to my YouTube channel to stay posted on future videos. Thanks for watching.
Making my peace with the oneness of this.